Welcome to A Champion's Journey. I'm Matt Davidson. From an early age, I've had the privilege of learning from world champions and world-class performers, and I've always been fascinated by what drives them to the pinnacle of achievement. In this podcast, I'll interview high performers to learn more about the habits and rituals which have helped them on the road to championship victory. Welcome to the special edition of A Champion's Journey podcast, coming to you all the way from Skydive Arizona, where I'm currently training with Arizona Airspeed four-way Formation Skydiving Team. Airspeed is a team with a rich legacy dating back to the early 1990s. Over that time, they've been a formidable powerhouse on the national and international stages, winning championship titles several times over. Today, we'll have a conversation with Airspeed's team captain, national and world champion Niklas Hemlin. Nick is one of the hardest working people I've ever met. His drive and passionate obsession for his craft are uncommon even amongst his peers. In addition to being a world-class athlete, Nick is a phenomenal coach, highly skilled and well-versed in the rich and layered nuances of formation skydiving. Nick's journey has had its share of obstacles along the way, but his vision and relentless dedication in leading Airspeed on the path to victory have given him the strength to overcome and become one of the best skydivers and most sought-after coaches in the sport today. Please welcome Niklas Hemlin. Nick, thank you so much for being on the podcast, brother.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Ever since I was a young jumper, I was really inspired by watching Airspeed videos and by the intensity, focus, and drive that the team has.
Mm-hmm.
It's such an incredible honor for me to be part of the team, and I feel extremely fortunate to be learning the Airspeed way from you, Tiago, Mikhail, and Dave.
Mm-hmm.
What can you share with us about your younger years? Where did you grow up, and what inspired you?
Well, I grew up in Gothenburg, Sweden. Started skydiving at a very young age. And talking about being inspired by Airspeed, I remember having the old VHS tape, $4.99.
Yeah.
Watching that tape until like 2 in the morning. Yeah. No, I started skydiving in 1994 in Gothenburg Parachute Club at the time. Doesn't exist anymore. It joined up with another club. But yeah, I met I used to be heavily involved with martial arts when I was younger. I did boxing, karate, kickboxing, and one of my coaches was a skydiver. And he showed me a picture one day. He's from Norway, but his name is Sigge. And he showed me a picture of hanging off of the strut of a Cessna. Someone had taken a picture from the inside.
Right.
And it was such a 90s photos because of the color on his jumpsuit and all that stuff, like neon colors. But I thought it was so cool. So he kind of pointed me in the right direction. And I started, I think I was 16 that year when I started skydiving, yeah.
And what can you tell us about your first experience? Were you natural, or did you find it difficult and challenging in those early stages?
No, I did. I was a student out of a Skyvan, and we didn't do static line. We did like instructor-assisted deployment, when they just hold the pilot chute behind you as you jump off. And I think I was above average when it comes to being nervous, but I loved every bit of it. Yeah, I was a very good student, studied hard, and I think I needed to go through like 35 approved jumps, and I think I ended up with like maybe 39 or 40. I think he just failed a couple. But the ones that failed mostly in the beginning was because of nerves. They were like from 1,000 meters. You had to just jump out, and somebody just dropped the pilot chute and the parachute open, and he had to do the canopy patterns and all of that. But then eventually you needed to, after I think jump 7 or something, you need to pull on your own. And dude, I was so nervous for that.
It seems like a lot of jumps. Does that take you all the way to an A license, or was that just to get off student status?
No, it's to get your A license. So you progressed. I was kind of from a rebellious club in Gothenburg. They were known for it back in Sweden, where I kind of they, like the rebellious skydiving spirit from the 60s and 70s and 80s, from what I understand, And I remember you needed to do zero free fall, just hop and pops essentially in the beginning. And then they take you up to 2,000 meters for X amount of seconds of free fall. And you do all this on your own. But then someone is looking at you from the ground with binoculars to see that you do the required turns and stuff you're supposed to do. But I remember on my first 2,000, they took me up. So that gives you, what is that? It's like 7,000 feet or something.
Okay.
It gives you quite a good free fall. But then it was close to sunset and the second jump. So they just look at me, hey, Nick, you're going out at 13.5.
Nice.
So that took me, my second free fall ever, they took me all the way up to 13.5. And I remember that as it was yesterday. It was like spring-loaded main deployment system. So you pull the ripcord and the pilot chute is supposed to spring out of your main container, like a reserve pilot chute,
Right.
And it wouldn't go. So I was arching and it was just behind me. I would imagine just in the turbulence.
Did you clear the burble like they told you to, or did you just wait for it?
No, I panicked. It came out, but yeah. Yeah, I had great memories from when I was a student. I remember my very first free fall vividly. Yeah.
Tell us about it.
It was in southern parts of Sweden. It was a jumping boogie with another sister club. The region is called Skåne. So I think actually Småland's parachute club. And I remember standing at the ramp of the Skyvan, and my instructor said, "Are you ready, Nick?" I'm like, "Yes." And then I'm supposed to kind of just do up, down, and jump off. And I'm like, wait a minute. He's looking at me, okay, you ready? I'm like, yes. No, wait a minute. He's like, Nick, seriously. And I just jumped. And I remember like just looking down. And I wasn't arching at all, but I was stable. And then the parachute just came open, and then everything came to life, so to speak. I was just stunned by the view. And even though it was just probably 2 seconds all in all until line stretch that I could feel the opening, I remember that just right outside in the air. I remember the scenery. I remember everything. And it's very vivid for me. And
Nice.
I was hooked, yeah.
I've never been to Sweden. What was the scenery like there for that jump?
Well, that particularly, it's a drops in the middle of nowhere, and you're surrounded by forest and farmland, and it's pretty flat. Southern parts of Sweden is very flat. It's like you would imagine Ohio or Indiana or something.
Oh, right.
Yeah. It's more forest though. It's a lot more forest, but yeah.
So what was your most memorable jump?
Oh, I have a lot, but there are some on your journey, there are a few jumps that stand out. And I remember my first jump. I remember my first RW jump, when you're supposed to jump with more people than just yourself. And I think I did a 9-way or a 10-way, because the people out of my club just jumped out and made a 9-way with me. It's like an arrowhead with me at the top of it facing in, and everyone else is facing me. I have another jump when I went to a ski resort in northern Sweden called Åre, and it was in the middle of winter, so we took off on the lake, landed on the lake, and it was over a ski resort. I never jumped around mountains, and I don't think even had 100 jumps, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, like 85 or something. And you're very close to Norway, and you see the snow all over the mountains in Norway, and there's a big ski resort there with a big mountain top, and that's absolutely gorgeous. Of course, round 10 at the World Meet, winning it in 2012. I remember that jump really well. Remember the airplane ride, Yeah. It's, I feel like you have different memories throughout the career that stands out,
Yeah, for sure. I remember that jump as well, and that ride on the boat back, going back into the city.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that was so awesome. Such an awesome feeling.
Yeah.
Did you, how did you feel at the end of that jump? This is skipping ahead a little bit, but how did you feel riding back? Did you know that you guys had sealed the deal and won the competition, or?
It's a feeling of knowing that if they beat that, they deserve it. But for us, even at the time, that was a knockout skydive. And it's like you could feel it in in the pieces that you were flying, and the random work and the visuals, that everyone just gave 100%. I had scuff marks on my visor from Mark from turning block 4. So he just rammed his helmet into me every time, and I did the same to Thomas on block 4, and it was just full intensity and confidence. So, it was one of the best skydives I've ever had, and if you look at it, you can see it too. And when you tracked away from that jump, you knew that if they beat that, it would be a superhuman performance, and they deserved every bit of it, because that was the best jump we could ever have.
Nice. It's always a good feeling when you know that you gave it your all in competition, especially on that round 10.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's like what I'm learning more and more. You always want to win, but as an athlete, or kind of like an artist in a way, if you left everything on the table and you have nothing else, for me, there are no regrets. You know what I'm saying? The mortifying part for me as a performer is when I don't do my best and the other team beats you, because then I know I fell short. But if I did the best I could and I still beat it, it's very much a sensation of fulfillment for me. So that's... I had that on that jump for sure. I'm like, that's the best we have. High five, whatever. And then, of course, it was confirmed that Hayabusa had a bust on that jump. But, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately for them, but, great for you guys. That was awesome. I remember being there and, watching that final judging and getting that final score. It was emotional just to watch, so I can only imagine, what it felt like to actually be in your shoes. And now going back a little bit, at what point in your skydiving experience did you know that you wanted to be a competitor?
I've always been a competitor my whole life. So I always strive towards structure and competition in any kind of sport. So I was, like I said earlier, I was heavily involved with martial arts. I always wanted to compare myself to something. And for me, it's just a natural transition. So when I grew up in the early 90s and early 2000s, the 10 years there, Airspeed was already a known entity in 1994 when I started. And four-way was huge, which today is still very, very big. But it's at the peak of its popularity was probably 94 to 2004. And, I knew right away that's what I wanted to do. I try, how it is. Belly at the time was the thing to do. And everyone wanted to do four-way and eight-way and big ways. And in this today in skydiving, you have so many options. You can be a tunnel flyer, free flyer, wingsuiter, base jumper, belly flyer. And within each one of those, there's many different things to do. You can do dynamic and free flying or VFS. But belly flying, you can do big ways to 4 ways to 8 ways to just fun jumping or whatever. So, but back in the day, I was drawn to 4-way right away. I had my first team the very next year in 1995.
And what team was that?
I can't remember the name of it, but we did have matching gear.
Nice.
We all bought rigs and canopies and everything. Yeah.
So you look good. That's half of it, right?
Yeah, we did about maybe a handful of jumps, and then we broke apart. No, my first year I did like 85 jumps, 84 jumps, and then my second year, I think I just fell short of 400. So I was just I was jumping full throttle from. So I was. 17, I think. I mean, today you have some kids that are started when they were 16 and they're like, 20-something, and they have 8,000 jumps.
Yeah.
But back in the day for me in Sweden, it's like the season like in the Midwest or in the Northeast, It's like you jump from April through September, maybe October, and then it's done.
Okay.
And me doing 400 jumps a year and then later on 500 or 600 jumps a year, I mean, you're jumping full time. So, yeah.
At that point in time, was being a member of Airspeed always in your sights, or was that something that progressed through experience and being on different teams?
No, being on Airspeed was like a fantasy so big I didn't even consider it.
Oh, wow.
And no, not even close. I think it grew because I remember the very first time I met Jack Jeffries, Craig Gerard, and that part of it was I went to a camp in Stockholm called the Swedish Basics Camp. And that was a project that started by a guy by the name of Lukas Knutsson. He was a pioneer of sorts in Sweden, and he had a goal of having a very competitive Swedish 8-weight team. And he had a camp where people signed up, and for 3 weeks they jumped. I think the budget was 100 skydives in 3 weeks, I think.
Wow.
Where like 40 people signed up for this thing. So 40 people for 3 weeks trying to do 100 jumps. And the objective was you got Jack Jervis, Craig Gerard, the best in the world to come in to coach. And the first 2 weeks you just did basic body flight development like you do today in the tunnel. And the objective on the first one, I think, was to pick an 8-weight team, and they picked an 8-weight team. And the nickname was the Project 8-weight or whatever. And the next year...
So were you picked for that 8-weight team?
I didn't go. That was the first year. That was the the whole motivation behind that. But then they wanted to create a 4-weight team. And so they had another basics camp the next year, and that's the one I went to.
Okay.
And I went there with the dream to want to be picked, but, you know, I ended up being picked, and I was not even 18 at the time.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how I started my career. So Jack, I remember the first time I saw Jack. He walks in and sits on the couch in the Stock and Parachute Club, and I'm just a little kid. And I just look at him like, and he can notice I'm staring him down, but it's just of amazement, of awe, like, and hearing his American accent and talking to everyone, and he's like looking at me like, hi, and I'm like, hey, super awkward, and yeah. But I attached myself to, Peter Allen was there too,
nice.
and a Norwegian guy called Ken Hansen. So those were the 4 coaches, and yeah, so.
I remember feeling like that when I first met Jack and Pete as well too, just starstruck. You know, there's such legends in the sport.
Yeah, I mean, this is in, I think, 95 or 96, one of the two. I think actually the 8-weight was 95, and the my year was 96. And yeah, I mean, they were rock stars, you know, yeah. And I was watching that Airspeed educational video that Craig Buxton, I think, developed with Airspeed called 499.
Yeah.
And I think Pete Allen was on there to fill in for whoever. And I used to watch that thing over and over again, seeing Kirk Werner turn the old block donut, 5-footed donut, replaced by bipole, 5-footed bipole. And he used to just rock it, and I was like, yeah. Yeah, but it's amazing. I used to sit up and I watched that thing hundreds of times. Yeah, that's all I did.
Yeah, I did the same thing with some Airspeed videos. I remember like their, I think it was their 93 and their 95 tapes of the World Championships. Yeah, I just watched them over and over and over. I'm just so inspired, man.
Yeah. And, yeah, absolutely.
So you did that camp, and from there, did you go? You told me before about being on the Swedish national team. Mm-hmm. Did that happen shortly after that, or what was the progression there?
Well, I mean, there were a couple of teams in Sweden at the time that were way above the 4-weight that was picked at that camp. The dream for the Swedish Basics camp, which is we were the Project 4-weight now, and the other one was the Project 8-weight. And the dream was for us to medal and become the national team eventually, you know. But we had 3 other teams. The national team was the team called Exit. And then you had another team called Vertical Smile, and they were supposed to, inherit a throne after Exit. And then you had Delta, a 4-weight team from a different drop zone in Västerås, Aros. And we were just in 4th. So I remember our very first competition, they used to have the Swedish Cup skydiving competitions, 4 or 5 different of those every year. And I remember the very first competition we went to with that team, we scored a 7.4 average.
Nice.
But, and then people, we hadn't really trained. We were just picked and we hadn't been coached. But then we started getting coached by Pete Allen, and I don't think Jack Jeffers came back, but I think Craig came back, Joe Trinko.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he came back. We were coached by Pete Allen quite a bit, I think, and if I remember correctly. But we ended up taking 2nd that year.
Nice.
Yeah. And I think that was a huge... I even think the team that was supposed to inherit the first spot, they took 4th. So it was the national team won because they were doing a 15 average. They were way above. So the story goes, you got to be at the right time at the right place, because a couple of things happened for me. I was young, I was talented, driven, and very intense when I was younger. I still am, but I've learned how to relax. But I remember that nationals, we did take second, and the team that was supposed to take second took third, and then I had someone got injured on the 8-way, so I ended up having to fill in for 8-way. So I got a silver in 8-way.
Nice.
And then a guy on the national team dislocated his collarbone.
Oh, man.
Biking to the podium from wherever he was staying on his mountain bike. I got to go to the World Cup in Leopoldsburg in Belgium that year for the national team. And I ended up doing that and averaging, I think, 14 or 15 or something.
Nice.
So, yeah, like my first year. And it's like being in the right time at the right place. So I was this 17-year-old kid running around, doing 4-way, 8-way, and eventually getting the opportunities. So, you know, for me, I'm very humbled thinking about that, because you couldn't even orchestrate that even if you tried.
Right.
But then also community, like in Sweden, believing in me and helping me, you know. I remember skydiving in 94 as just my first year in skydiving, how I get bussed around by people, take me to the drop zone or take me to boogies, or, I mean, none of that would have been possible if it wasn't for a community embracing me. So I owe the Swedish skydiving community a lot, you know.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I tell newer members of the 8-way team or newer competitors that try out for a team. They don't make it their first time, or they're put in the alternate position. I always tell them to continue training, continue visualizing, because you want to be sure that you're set up for those opportunities that inevitably arise. You know, I've just seen it happen time and time again. And you see those people that get a little discouraged after maybe not making it that first time, and then they don't put in that effort, and they're not ready for that opportunity. So I tell people always, you know, you never know what's going to happen today, tomorrow, a week from now. You know, that opportunity might present itself a lot faster than you think. And also, when you were there in that community, you're saying you had the support of your community. Do you have any mentors that stick out in your mind from back then?
Yeah, I mean, the people that I ultimately looked up to was Airspeed, and having a somewhat of a personal relationship with Pete, Jack, and Craig, that made the imagination of potentially becoming like them real. So it wasn't just out of my league anymore. It was possible. I could visualize it and touch it. So I think that opened up my imagination. But my teammates, I mean, I was a kid, you know. And I remember they smuggled me into bars and stuff by sticking me in between a row of 5 people.
I remember those days too.
You know, like my first, I told you I started jumping down to this little sister drop zone. We went there for a boogie, and people got me. I was 16 at the time. They got me so drunk I was vomiting everywhere, and I'm the evening's entertainment. And yeah, so it's people. Yeah, it's mentor was. I always had mentors in my club. I looked up to my instructor a lot. Helge Andersson is his name, and I looked up to him a lot. And then other people came along. A friend of mine I looked up to was Niklas. Nickname is Turbo because he talks a lot. And Mats, who is no longer with us. Yeah, just people along the way. And then I was always embraced by, you know how it is being on a team. You get very close with your brothers or sisters. And, I mean, I always look up to them. But I think I was very hard to be around, and I still am sometimes, because I was very intense when I was a teammate. I mean, we had a lot of fun and stuff, but I always wanted more, and I wanted it sooner, and I was very driven. But I always put my full heart into whatever I was doing, not distracted, just 100% into what I was doing. And I don't know, but I feel like you were talking about what you tell other people to, you never know when the opportunity is going to come. But for some reason, I have this incredible ability to visualize what I want and go for it. And then somehow the universe just responds to it. I don't really have an explanation for why I make it and other people don't. All I know is I just have this innate ability to visualize what I want, and then it just becomes reality, even though it hasn't even happened yet. And I feel like as a young kid, maybe I'm skipping ahead here a little bit, but visualizing myself moving to the U.S. With, a suitcase and a gear bag, and then making it in the U.S. to where I am, my own American dream. I can survive on skydiving. I'm on Airspeed, and, I have a life. It's a long ways from where I started in Sweden,
Yeah, it's an incredible success story. Your journey's really interesting, and that was my next question. What made you decide to move to the U.S.? What part of the U.S. did you move to? And if you can just tell us about that part of your journey.
Well, I think the Golden Knights have a huge part here in my story. I never did join the Army or the Golden Knights, but I had a very close relationship with John Hoover, who was married or is married to a Swedish girl.
Mm-hmm. Sarah.
Sarah, who I knew from Sweden. And I had a relationship with the Golden Knights. So in 1998, out of Portugal at the World Cup, the Golden Knights were there, and I essentially had a lot of conversation with Trevor McCartney, I think his name was.
Trevor McCarthy.
Yeah, McCarthy, and John Hoover, and they convinced me to go and apply for the Golden Knights. So I essentially had a contract to join the Army, and then I had came up and skydived with you guys, with Charlie Brown and you guys. And I think this was in June of 1999. I was in Ray for training with you guys for 2 days. And I guess I did pretty well where you guys wanted me, but you know how it is. You have to enlist. You have to go through all of this, and you never know if you're going to make it or not.
Right.
So in the period where I was just waiting to be shifted off to basic training, I got an offer to join PD Blue. And that was a sure thing. So I was weighing the potential of possibly making on the Golden Knights or being on PD Blue right now. That was in 1999. And I decided to go with the PD Blue thing. And I never know if that was the right decision or not, because I always feel like I missed out on my military service. That's something that I'm very attracted to and I always wanted to do. But I'm sitting here right now, so I can't really say that it was a misstep. I could have been here as a Golden Knight. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But so I think the Golden Knights was my main inspiration to move to the U.S.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no.
What was your experience like on PD Blue?
It was good. I mean, the only reason why I joined PD Blue was to do four-way. And I know that Kyle Collins was moving off of that team, which started as Genesis.
Right.
With Ian Bobo, Shannon, Kyle Collins, and David Van Groeningen. And they were some college kids out of Atlanta that moved down to the land to try to make it. And they had this perfect mix between working in the industry as a journalist or engineers or whatever. And then they had a four-way team. Well, that became one day PD took those guys in-house. And they changed the name to PD Blue. And then Kyle Collins left the team and I got his slot. And when I got his slot, I was on my first full-time four-way team. And I had to do the PD tour for PD and a few other things in return. And it was a great time. But, it didn't quite last long enough because then the PD Blue started becoming more and more. Four-way was the thing at the time. And canopy piloting just started to come about. There started to be some competitions in Florida and stuff, and the people that did most skydives, like forward jumpers, like Joey Jones, and a few other people started winning all those competitions.
Right.
But then that became its own discipline. So PD Blue very quickly went from a four-way team to a canopy factory team, which it is today. Flight One. So so I was kind of part of that in the beginning there when it went four-way.
The PD tour that you're talking about, what did that consist of? What did you do with that?
Well, you had to go and be a factory rep. So you go to different drop zones, and PD ships you out there with all the canopies, and you just let people demo canopies and stuff. Yeah, I was not very good at that.
No.
I accidentally hooked up a canopy backwards once.
Whoops.
It was terrible.
For yourself or for someone else?
For someone else. And Ian Bellis, who is not with us anymore, he was so nice, not singling me out when we had the debrief afterwards, because we always debriefed when we came back, you know. And he was very nice, but yeah, it was a big mess up on my part.
Did the person end up landing the canopy backwards or cutting it away?
No, he flew it a while, but then cut it away. Yeah. I mean, no one got hurt. Everything is fine, but I didn't do my due diligence when I hooked up the canopy, obviously. But it's a funny story now, but at the time it was very embarrassing for PD and for me. So, yeah. But Ian, he was very nice to me, so...
So what point did you move to Skydive Arizona? Was that after the PD Blue team kind of disbanded?
No, the story there is before then, before the whole Golden Knights and stuff, before PD Blue, I was just hanging out in DeLand, waiting for my opportunity, you know. And I needed to take, when I moved here from Sweden, I was living in DeLand, and I needed to take my GED. I needed to take some college courses to better my chance to get what I wanted, enlisting in the Army, right?
Right.
And I wasn't. I didn't have the paperwork to even enlist in the Army yet, so I needed to get a green card, and I was waiting for all that stuff to go through. And as I was waiting for that, I was skydiving. I was working a little bit as the gear guru at Skydive DeLand, helping Skydive DeLand just sell gear. And that was mortifying. Bob Hallett, the owner of Skydive DeLand, decided to call me the gear guru, posted my picture all over the drop zones. I was going to be the guy who's going to help you buy gear or whatever.
I vaguely remember that.
Dude, I was a young kid, but Bob made fun of it, and that was awesome, you know. But for me, I was... yeah. But I then started jumping a little bit with FX, actually. They had a team with Doug, Joey, Don English, and Dave Timko.
Okay.
Yeah. And they needed to train more than they didn't always have all the people. So they started jumping with me. So I think I did like 250 jumps with them in 1999.
Nice.
Yeah, and I even went to nationals as their alternate. But I wasn't really the alternate because I just tagged along because I loved four-way. And they were a very intense team. And they were up and coming, and I loved the energy, and I just wanted to be a part of something. And then later on, the whole enlistment process, when I had all my paperwork, and then the PD Blue thing happened. But so in 1999, FX had this sights set for Airspeed, and they were the new kid on the block, you know. Joey, very driven. And actually, no, who else was on it?
Neil Houston was on the team at some point.
Yeah, but that was later.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that was in 1999, actually. So I'm talking maybe even 2001. Maybe this is after that. Yeah, I mix it up a little bit. Yeah, but Neil Houston was on that team. You're right. And Christopher Irvin.
Yeah.
They competed against Airspeed in 1999 in Sebastian. So I'm talking about this after then. This must have been 2001. So I'm mixing that up a little bit. Yeah. But... yeah, it was fun. The land back in the day was a hot spot, you know. That kind of cycles through, right?
Yeah.
The land used to be a hot spot, then it died down a little bit. You know, the years where you had the Lane Gang and Jack and Tom Pirates and all of them out there. Then it died down a little bit. Then it hit its peak again there with Peter Blue and Magic.
Magic, yeah.
And Equanimity, the South African team for Solly and Gary Smith. You know? Yeah.
So how did that, if you can take me to the next steps, getting to Skydive Arizona, what happened in between DeLand?
I was on the Peter Blue team, and then we weren't doing the Peter Blue team anymore because we were kind of dismantled, but we were all just hanging on DeLand coaching, skydiving, and then Shannon one day asked me, hey, I have this group from Ohio, Team Fast Tracks. I need someone to fill in for me. I'm like, sure, I'll do it. So I went down to the Orlando Tunnel and coached them. And then I ended up just getting along with them. really well. And then that ultimately ended up with more or less a 3-on-1 with the owner, John Hart. It was like Mark Kirkby, Doug Park, and myself skydiving with him. And then Mark left to rejoin Airspeed in 2007, and we took Thomas Hughes on the team. But that thing started as a forward team with just me coaching from the outside. And then one of those guys quit, so I joined the team. And so I was a player coach on the team in 2000. And I coached them in 2000 and the end of 2002 and all of 2003. Then I started jumping with them in 2004 all the way through 2007. But every year we had John, the owner of the team, wanted to up the ante every year. So we ended up with me first and then a couple of other local people that were better and better every year. And then eventually it was John and I that got Mark and Doug involved. And then Mark left and Thomas came on board.
Yeah.
And it was a good team. It was actually a very good team. We had Gary Smith coaching us and yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember going to do a training camp or two out there at Fast Tracks doing some 8-way. We actually combined with that team because we were doing 4-way at the time, and then we combined, with some of the members of the team to do night tracks.
Yeah.
We actually went to the 2008.
That's the year I
World
took
Meet.
a year off. 2008, I took a year off from skydiving, or 9 months. I was having my daughter at the time, so that's when they joined you guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when Sean took the final slot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny how we all in skydiving, like I'm just sitting here talking about the history,
Right.
and we're touching each other all over the place as far as like how I know you. I met you in 1997 in Turkey for the very first time. You're sitting there by the pool with the oil rubbing up all over your body, looking real hot.
Well, me? You're talking about me?
Yeah.
You must have me confused with somebody else.
Combing your hair back slick.
I look like one of those Jersey boys, I think.
Yeah.
Those were good times. That was a fun meet. Yeah, I remember that. That was a long time ago.
And that was the thing is, if I even go back to Sweden, it's so I represented Sweden already. First time in '96 at the World Cup by accident, and then I earned the right the next year to go to the World Meet. Earned the right in '98 to go to the World Cup in Portugal, and then in 1999 I set my sights for the U.S. and moved. And that was like I knew I wanted to move to the U.S. if I wanted to pursue my career, And I wanted nothing but skydiving, so off I went, and here I am. No guarantees. And I don't even understand how I did it. Today, I would never take that risk,
Yeah, that's huge. So you had to make a lot of sacrifices along the way, obviously, to get to where you are now. What were some of those sacrifices? And, if you can just tell us some about that. And when you decided to move to Skydive Arizona, I think you told me you're living out of a tent for an amount of time.
No, it's the very first time I visited Arizona was in 1997. I was having a training camp with my Swedish team in Sebastian, with Pete Allam coaching us. And when we were done with that, we were driving from Sebastian to Skydive Arizona. And I just sent Hendrik, our cameraman at the time. We had a car that we drove all the way out here. And they sent him a video message because he just drove that same route with my son 22 years later. And
that's crazy.
And now the sacrifices. When I was younger, it was all an adventure. And I told someone else this a while back, like, moving to the U.S. was never a risk. It was... I was, like I had my family, and if everything went wrong, I could just move back home to Sweden. And Swedish society is such, at the time when I lived there, I don't know now, I have no clue, but it was safe because, let's say I moved to the U.S. and everything I fell flat on my face. I could go back to Sweden, be educated, which would be for free, and just not skip a beat and just rolled right into Swedish society, and everything was just like it would have been if I didn't even try. And I could have been 35. It wouldn't have mattered.
Oh, wow.
And for that, Sweden is awesome, you know.
Yeah, I bet it was somewhat comforting to know that you had that safety net if you needed to fall back on.
That's exactly it, you know. It's like a trapeze artist with a net. I can do more crazy stuff up there because I know if I fall, I'm going to land on the net. And they gave me a lot more. But at the same time, it was some ego too, because I never wanted to come home and disappoint my family or my community or be a failure. So that a lot of times really had me dig deep when I had moments of doubt or moments of wanting to quit or moments I just wanted to move back home where I just kept fighting. So it worked. It was double-edged. I was safe because I knew if worse comes to worse, everything is going to be fine. But also I did not want to disappoint anyone really, my community or my family. So that kept me pushing and pushing and pushing when everything inside of me told me to quit.
I'll bet your family is pretty proud of you now.
Yeah, I mean, it's that's one of the sacrifices. I don't know anyone really anymore in my family or even in skydiving. The people that know me are generations. They're from my generation, but they're like the old people. The people that are still skydiving in Sweden, they grew up with me, but those are the people that are running like the association or they're the senior member of the club.
Right, yeah.
So I love this Swedish skydiving community, and I know it's still the same, and that's something that I lost, just not having the time to go back. And I tried to go back after I won the world meet a little bit, but it was just hard to kind of catch up. You know, they have their own thing going over there. But yeah, I mean, pursuing skydiving, it's like anything else that you're super passionate about, especially now when I have kids. You know, I have 4 kids total, but 3 are biologically mine, and 1 is more or less just adopted, not legally, but and having them live somewhere else. My son now, which you have met, he packs for the team now, but it was for many years I wasn't really involved in his life because it was just skydiving. You train, and when you train, you're busy, and then you got a coach to make money, and it's just very hard to have a good relationship. So that's something that I feel, but I don't think that's unique to skydiving. I think anyone dedicated to their career, it's just very hard to be a perfect athlete and a coach, and on top of that, be a perfect husband and a father and everything else. I think that it was very hard for me to find a balance. So I really tried, but for me, it was very hard. So I ended up in a couple of divorces and, 3 biological kids from 2 different marriages. And today, I think I found a balance that I myself is very happy with. But I didn't own up to my share of responsibilities except for what my passion was. I never compromised skydiving,
Yeah.
But I did compromise my role as a husband or a father, simply because it was all or nothing for me in skydiving. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. I've experienced some of that myself. Yeah. What were your first days like at Skydive Arizona? Did you come here knowing that you were being selected for Arizona Airspeed, or did that happen at a later time?
No, so in 2007, that was my last year on Fast Tracks, and that was with Thomas, John, and Doug Park, and we did lose to Airspeed that year at Chicago. And Mark had left Fast Tracks, so he had been on the team with me for a year in 2006 on Fast Tracks. He went back to Airspeed, so it was Andy, Dale, Galiana, Craig, and Mark. They won the right. They won the nomination to become the U.S. team in 2007. They won the World Meet in 2008, and that was the year I took a year off to focus on my marriage and to have my second child, Natalie, my daughter. And then Airspeed won the 2008 World Championship, and the 2009 they were training and then went and lost towards France in 2010. So I was back skydiving in 2009. But I was just working at a place called Star Skydiving, Ohio, which is the base for Team Fast Tracks. And I was just doing forward coaching, AFF 10 and videos, organizing, stuff like that. And Craig and Aliana knew they were going to move to Dubai. Andy Delk was going to retire. So Mark was going to continue the team. And they knew that very early. They knew that already probably in the end of 2009 or something, I don't know. But I got a call very early by Mark Kirkby. And he talked to Josh Hall, Thomas Hughes, and myself. And I think this must have been early 2010. So I was already on the radar. So I think June of 2010, I knew I was on the team. And we started training in October or November 2010. We had our first camp. So I had just bought a new house in Ohio, I think April 2010. And then I think I got the confirmation in June 2010 I was on the team. So then I had to buy a new house in Casa Grande in November of 2010. And I knew I was already on the team early. Mark really crossed his T's and dotted his I's on that one, So.
And obviously you guys are extremely focused and dedicated. How do you prepare your mind and body to meet the demands of intensified team training and high-pressure competition environments? And more specifically, what is your physical and mental training like exactly?
My physical, and this in general terms, I know what my body is. My body is, I'm very strong and explosive, and I have an ability to build muscle mass. And for skydiving, bad.
Yeah.
Like I can very easily, I'm only 5'8" and a bit. So for me, I have to be more lean. So I can be 180 pounds muscle, low body fat, but that's my body type. So I have to do a lot of cardio, and I have to restrict my calories. But at the same time, I have to, I do a lot of yoga actually to keep my my flexibility and to keep my whole body competitive,
Nice.
And earning the right to represent the U.S. in Dubai in 2012. That year, we trained a lot. And through that year, I really started to become the national team in training already based on our output, our quantity, our quality. So for me, it's I win it in training for sure. And I start to believe in myself in training, And but then again, I've always been a competitor. And for me, I am very nervous before competition, very nervous. And but when the door opens and the moment of truth arrives, I have to climb out. I'm eerily calm, to the point where I really have to focus on staying focused. It's a lot in competition where I'm very nervous. But if I do have a glitch or something, it's usually because I'm seeing something that distracts me. I start analyzing or something. But definitely, the more nervous I am, the better I do. And it's something that when I was younger as a competitor, I learned as a martial artist, is that I thought there was something wrong with me because I was super nervous. And the best competitors in my mind at that time, I thought they weren't nervous. And come to find out later on in my career as a competitor, that really refined itself as a skydiving competitor, was that no, those nerves is the foundation for superhuman performances. Like I feel like we had in the last jump in Dubai in 2012, when everything just comes together in this perfect storm, and when you have to perform, you perform as a team, and you just squeeze out the best performance you can,
I know for myself, personally, I have different rituals, pre-competition rituals that I use to help me with that nervousness and that pre-competition anxiety. So it comes down to breathing patterns, like box breathing patterns, just to calm myself down a little bit. Or it goes to the mental preparation, putting on some headphones with, music that gets my juices flowing and visualizing the skydive. What pre-competition rituals do you have, if any?
I tried them all. And I come to find out that when I had those things that you just explained, for me, they didn't work. Because anything outside of that ritual threw me off my game. So my game is to ad-lib and be 100% flexible to whatever comes my way.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
cool.
So I find myself, I needed the ritual so much that if I didn't get it, I was off.
Oh, okay.
Or if I was getting it, I felt great, but then I didn't get it every time. So I make a huge effort of walking around, be sociable, shaking hands with everyone, interact, and throughout my skydiving career, I learned, and Thomas Hughes was a good impression for me about that, because he is very loose and easygoing. I had another guy, Joachim, as one of my first teammates in Sweden, very much the same. So the only thing I'm trying to do is have positive thinking and a positive mindset, and become less intense and just start to relax more. Intensity is great for training, especially if you're working on a low energy, or training yourself to mentally prepare yourself for the challenge at hand. So in training, that intensity serves a purpose, but it comes down to like the last month or something before competition. I start to relate to my teammates, visualize them in very positive manners. And, even within the team and the debriefs and stuff, it becomes less accountability kind of debriefing to more like, it is what it is. We can't do much about it now, which is becomes a lot more positive. But there's always this balance throughout the year where you try to fix things, but then towards the end, things are set. So really the only thing I try to do is relate to myself and to my teammates and everyone else around me more in a positive manner.
Nice. So do you have a process that helps to put you into that frame of mind, or is that something you ad-lib based on the environment as well?
I just ad-lib it, yeah. I do make a huge effort in reaching out to people. So we arrive at the World Meet in 2018, right, in Australia. And we're there super early, before anyone else. We're there as early as Qatar training at a drop zone. And you just start shaking hands and be nice and talk and really make yourself available to the community. For me, some people have the complete opposite. They need to lock themselves in a room with a headset on and listening to music and be super focused. I'm the complete opposite. I just want to absorb and soak in the environment around me. So right the day before round one or something like that, I'm walking around saying hello to everyone around the tents, just trying to connect with people.
Yeah, I find that I need a balance. Like, I can't just sit there with the headphones on and visualize. I have to have a balance of walking around and being sociable, but I'll always go back to that just so that I can make sure that vision of the next jump is clear in my mind, the more that I think about it.
Yeah, and for me, it's I've tried everything as a competitor, being angry with the competition, like I'm going to rip you up.
Right.
It's like that doesn't work.
No, that doesn't work for me either.
And some people have to hate their competition, and I don't at all. I have to be almost friends with them, And that's what I realized. I needed to become a friend with this anxiety that I think every good competitor has. And I feel like people that have performance anxieties, they are not more or less nervous. They just have a bad relationship with the feeling of the anxiety. And I in a way, for the lack of any other kind of explanation, I kind of make friends with it and shake hands. Like, hey, how you doing? I know I don't feel well right now, thanks to you, but you are the best thing for me in this moment. So I feel like the feeling of being nervous in that moment especially when you're going toe-to-toe with another team. It's never a good feeling. I don't just want to wake up, I wish I felt like round 10 or round 1. I wish I did. No, not at all.
But you realize that it serves a purpose. You realize that it's
Absolutely.
working for you. That's really powerful. I've never really thought about it in exactly those terms.
Yeah.
I think I've had the same feelings, but I like the way you explain that.
Yeah. So I just, I become friends with it, and I embrace it. And I just know that, hey, you are going to propel me to my superhuman performances, and you serve a purpose, and you are my friend. But at the same time, that nervous feeling, that butterflies in your stomach, that anxiety that comes along, it's not something I would want to feel every day of every no, not at all. It's reserved to specific moments where I really have to perform.
Right.
Yeah. Without it, I don't do as well. It's impossible to do as well without it. So.
Yeah, I find that I I operate best in a calm state of arousal. So I need some of that. I need some of that anxiety and some of those juices flowing in order for me to perform at peak level too. Because there have been a few times during competition where I haven't performed up to my potential because I just didn't have whatever those. I don't know if we didn't feel like we had competition at the time. I'm trying to remember the specific situation, but just going back to what you said, you definitely need that.
That's the other thing. It's as I've learned through experience, it doesn't matter how much you train, you're never going to feel ready. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that's also, you're like that artist that always want to fix something on the painting, or always more training to be done, or I wish I feel better here or there, but it's just, you're never going to be 100% ready. So there's an element in your soul where you just have to feel that, and whatever comes my way, we're going to deal with it. And every person, every team is going to have the same. It just comes down to you trusting yourself. And when I put that trust and I don't doubt, then things always work out,
Yeah. You talked about yourself being an artist. Do you feel that you're more of an artist than an architect as far as your mindset in the sport?
I think I developed to become more of an artist, yeah. But I started more like, my maturity has taken a journey where in the beginning I was just hungry to be the best, and four-way was so cool and skydiving was so cool. So I was the skydiver, and I took a lot of pride in being a skydiver. And then I took a lot of pride being a national champion. But throughout the years, I developed this complete love for the sport that I do understand four-way, and I do understand the architecture of it, but I would consider myself more of an artist these days than anything else. In the way you can either as a coach connect to people, or as a teammate connect to your team, or as an athlete connect to the technique, because the technique is not always right for you. And the technique that when you truly own a technique, when you are the best at it, is because you have a relationship with that particular block or exit or move or slot that you had to develop. But that requires an interaction, a relationship with, like how I exit as an outside center. People wonder how I do it, and I kind of own the process. I modeled it off of Craig Girard and Thomas Hughes. Being on a team with Thomas, but also seeing Craig exiting, and then being very good at the outside center exits. But I had to tame it, so to speak, or make it my own. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense.
But even when I coach people, it's about connecting with those people, And sometimes, with all the experience I have, I can coach every block many different ways. And it's not always like, this is what we do and that's going to work for you. No, it doesn't always work for you, And, so I don't know. It's becoming less and less of, it's becoming more and more of an art, I should say. Yeah, for me. Yeah.
I also think that artistic expression applies during a skydive too. My experience with people that are have the architectural brain or the mathematic brain. They seem to be less flexible whenever situations arise in a jump where you have to be more flexible and fix things on the fly and problem solve quickly, even though it wasn't planned that way in the dirt dive beforehand. Is that the way you think about it as well?
Oh, absolutely. And the greatest skydivers in four-way and eight-way have that. The ability to feel the skydive, and the skydive will tell you what it needs. You don't tell the skydive what it needs. So if you make up your mind ahead of time, you'll never be great as much as if you're willing to listen to the skydive and it will let you know what it needs. And that is something that's very unique to your team, but that's something that you have to do, you know. If you're technical, I mean, you have artists, pianists, they can play the same song, and one is a technical pianist, and they will play anything superbly, but there's no soul or heart in it. And then someone else plays it, maybe not 100% the way it was written, but you moved by that, or you could feel that person through the playing, and I feel like that, for me, is true. But I wasn't always like that. I was a technical guy at the beginning. It needed to be perfect this or that way. I actually believe that some of my changing became more what it is today after I started free flying. Yeah, when I started free flying in December 2013, free flying is a lot more ad-libbing and filling the air, and there's a way of doing things, but you can interpret how to do it, or it's a lot more nuance to how you can fly. And when I started free flying a lot and expanding and redeveloping my relationship with the wind, more so than just belly, I can now stand on my head or zip fly or in transition in any direction or orientation I want in free fall. I think that allowed me to my skydiving took a whole new. I'm trying to find the words, but
whole new meaning, or did it bring you to a different
whole
level?
New dimension? Yeah, a whole new dimension. I was no longer restrictive. I could literally do a 360 on my head, on my feet, on my back, on my belly, or doing a flip twist as I'm doing a 360. You know, it's like that ability to do all those things has made me, feel the wind more than just hammering technique, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a coach at the wind tunnel here at Skydive Arizona as well. Do you coach some free flying too?
No, very minimal. Free flying is something I have a very, very strong passion for, and I don't have enough time to be a coach at it. I only have enough time to fly it, and that's something that's for me. So I have about 230 hours, I think, of free flying. I tried to make a point to fly an hour a week, but the last year I've done maybe 25 hours, but I did 50 hours a year for my first 4 years.
Wow.
So that's for me. I want to free fly. Let's go free fly. If someone wants coaching, I can do some back coaching, sit coaching. And I'm a level 2 tunnel instructor, so I'm allowed to do belly coaching, back coaching, and sit coaching, but not anything head down. But I don't pursue working in the tunnels because I love the tunnel. I love flying. And the free flying is just something for me to, play around.
Nice. Getting back to the 2012 World Championships, how did you feel leading up to that competition, and why did you feel that way?
Well, the story is that it's a little bit of a personal story, but I'll share it in the sense that I moved out to Arizona in 2010 November with my family, 3 kids, my wife at the time, Jennifer, and myself. And we moved out here, threw caution to the wind, moved everyone out, no guarantees. We won Nationals 2010 here at Skydive Arizona to earn the right to represent the U.S. in Dubai 2012. And then in September, and the Nationals was in October, she moved out with the kids back to Ohio. So that was tough. But she moved out, and And that was a very surreal time for me. Literally newly separated, going to nationals here, then getting ready to go to Dubai. It was very hard for me to stay focused at the time. So what I did, I turned to a lot of physical exercise just to keep me on track. So I was in phenomenal shape for the world meet. But with all this drama and emotional cloud hanging over me, it really had me focused. And I can remember being biking, dealing with the whole situation was not easy at all. But dealing with it, just trying everything I can to stay focused on the task at hand and not be distracted. I was biking 30 miles, 11 o'clock at night. And I was on my iPod. As you know, it's dark out here in farmland, Arizona. There's nothing at that time of day. And I can remember this song coming on my iPod, a song 200 something out of 400 songs. And it's just a mantra in this song. They just keep saying, you're ready, you're ready, you're ready. And I can remember I realized, dude, I'm ready to become a world champion. At that moment, I was just by myself in the middle of nowhere. It was black on my bike, 11 o'clock at night. And I just started crying by myself, just all the pressure released. And I just knew somehow with the perfect mix of things in that moment, I was ready.
Wow.
And that was it, man. So with all the challenges that came our way at that world meet against Hayabusa, dude, I was ready. I remember round 10 going up, being super nervous, having that, toe-to-toe match up with them. Dude, I was smiling in the airplane on the way up to round 10.
That's a cool situation to be in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even though there's all that pressure and stress, it's such a cool place in life to be in when you realize it. Hey, I'm in a plane over Dubai, over the Palm Island, and I'm going up, in the competition of my life that I've been training all my life for, up to that moment. Those kind of moments are really cool.
Yeah, and I remember looking at Mark, at Josh, and Thomas, and I was just, didn't say anything out loud, but I was just, moving my lips like, I love you, looking at all of them, and they said it right back to me. It was this tremendous bond between us on the team.
That's awesome.
And so I knew, jumping out of the airplane, we were ready. We were rocking and rolling.
That's cool. It's so cool when the stars align like that and everything works out.
But that's the thing. Nothing is guaranteed. Yeah, you're not even guaranteed a shot.
For sure.
Nothing. So when the moment comes, you have to rise to it. And I feel like that's one of my biggest, I wouldn't say even accomplishments, but one of the biggest things that I feel blessed with is that I was given the opportunity to be in that situation, number one. And number two, to be able to bond through love and devotion and commitment to my team and my teammates and myself, that it ended up that way. But it's not just, you can't just go to the gym and train and jump. That's magic. That magic happens with a connection between you as a team. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that connection we had.
That's awesome. And now on the flip side of that, what were some of the challenges as a team, some of the biggest challenges that you guys face on the road to that 2012 World Championship victory, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I mean, I don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, the hardest thing for me on that team was to be a productive team member, and what I mean by that, come in and train, because 2 years of training intense, it's hard to always come into training and be ready, One of when I joined Airspeed in 2010, I kind of just joined the whole Airspeed thing, and I kind of just rode the wave. And in 2011, I didn't quite know how to handle the fanfare, because back then the Airspeed stock was high, and our team was very popular, the lineup. So you train and you coach, and people want to have a beers with you, and I had a hard time finding a balance between healthy living and staying focused. So too much partying on my end, for sure, 100%. And I just had a hard time finding that balance. So I remember 2011, I did my job and I did good, but I did not feel like a champion. And I had an awakening there, and started about December 2011, where I'm like looking myself in the mirror and thinking to myself, like, if I'm going to be a champion, I don't feel like a champion. And then, yeah. So then with Mark's help a little bit, I kind of got myself on track.
You were
Yeah.
telling me that you had a spiritual shift in your words right around that time.
Yeah.
It was that imbalance. Is that what influenced your decision to make the changes in that shift? And how has that shift affected you in your life up to this point?
Well, that shift that happened in 2012 is still going on today. So it's about 7-8 years later. And that shift is, I'm hoping, permanent. The way I live my life today started then. Pretty much December 2011 is kind of where it all started for me. The shift started. And then here we are today. That's a long time ago, you know. But I think it kind of came up too because when me as a person, I'm very intense and I'm 100% at whatever I'm doing. And being married to me at the time, being in Arizona, I know it must have been very hard for my wife at the time. And I know between being 100% devoted towards Airspeed and the coaching business that you have to support yourself and your family. I was always working, so there was a lot of drama at home, so to speak, because I didn't give the family what they needed. For two reasons. I felt like I needed to be 100% involved with the team. So I had a hard time striking the balance, and I needed to make the money I needed to make, and which required traveling and late nights, and so I was constantly not available. So with the inability to be able to find that balance of saying no when people want to buy you a drink, or after coaching they want to have a drink, or it was always all of that. I just didn't have a good ability to find my balance as an athlete, as an Airspeed member, as a family man. It all just came to head that year. So that was a very bad year for me, 2011. And then out of that came what you see today, a healthier spiritual, physically, and mental life for me.
What steps did you take specifically to make that change?
I think I went back to basics. And when I was younger, I'd say up to 2007, I was like an athlete. I worked out, no drinking, no drugging, no nothing. You know, I was just like, I was an athlete. And I took pride in being an athlete, you know. And I kind of just went back to that same recipe, you know. And I'm like, dude, I used to feel like a rock star. So I kind of just went back to that. And it was not easy going at first, you know, but today, you know, it's I've chosen a sober lifestyle. So I'm completely sober, working on 7 years.
That's awesome.
But a lot of that is just I used to be like that, and I remember life was a lot easier. And now today I can do what I want to do on my own terms. At the time when I joined Airspeed, I didn't know that. So I kind of just joined the party that was already going on in a way, you know. And not to blame anyone, but I find myself again today, and I'm super comfortable and happy where I'm at. And longevity, I love this sport so much, the community so much. Everything I have is because the community has embraced me. And everything I have is for the love of the sport. So why do I want that to end? I don't. So I have to take good care of myself to be a good competitor. And the day when I retire from competitive skydiving, then I want to be a good coach and still an asset to the community, such as Dan BC or Kirk Werner or Sala Williams or Gary Smith. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
I mean, I totally see myself as a lifer, you know, but I want to be healthy.
Yeah.
I want to be able to, like Mark, compete for how long? I mean, he won a world meet in 1995 and then in 2012. You know,
yeah.
So like yourself, I mean, you're the benchmark for fitness and healthy living. You know,
I appreciate that,
and I kind of want to be a part of that. So,
well, you definitely are, and you're an inspiration to many. Another thing that we talked about during that shift too is when you realized, correct me if I'm wrong, that you stopped doing things for yourself as much, and you shifted to more of a service-oriented mindset.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, skydiving, I've gone through so many revisions of myself throughout skydiving. And I think I have this relationship with you can reinvent yourself in many ways, and as a teammate, reinvent yourself, as a coach, reinvent yourself. And I remember my whole coaching career, I always just wanted to be the athlete. I just wanted to skydive, be very good at four-way, and then now very good at free flying. So I want to be the 50-year-old that do whatever needs to be done in free flying, just like rocking, having fun with the young kids. That's the dream of mine. Maybe even compete with my own son in dynamic flying in the tunnel. But back to your question is, I feel like I've gone through a lot of different revisions of just coaching because it's necessary to make money, coaching because you need to pay back for sponsorship, selling slots, blah, blah, blah. Coaching too, I went through a moment there where I just needed to make the money to pay the bills. And I come to find out that through a lot of trials and tribulations and so on, that if I approach skydiving as an art where I don't want to compromise four-way, I want to coach you the best four-way I know. And then the other part of it is I want to do the best I can for you. And the marriage between the two, doing the best you can for the person you're coaching or the team, and being true to four-way, it's in a service mindset. And being true as an artist to my art, four-way, and then being true as a servant to the people that are hiring me, has really made me enjoy coaching more than I ever thought. I don't look at the clock anymore. I'm not like, oh shit, I got to wrap this up. I need to go home. No. I really want to communicate, make sure you understand that that's the most important thing. And actually, when I'm very tired and I should probably go home, what keeps me there is because I want to make sure I leave you with what you need. And that's this maturity that I guess I've had, and it's really made a huge difference for me.
Yeah, I know personally speaking, being your student, since I've become a member of Airspeed has been a really great experience. You're a phenomenal coach, and you see through the matrix of four-way, and you're able to articulate all of the layered nuances of the sport, and I really appreciate it. I've learned so much already, and I really look forward to learning some more. And I'm sure that's why, you're in such high demand as a coach, because you bring that passion, and that passion is evident, that you're not just doing it, to punch in and punch out on the clock. You're very heavily invested in the sport and in the people that are learning and want to learn.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's I just I don't know. It kind of came out of skydiving is supposed to be fun, and I feel like I've gone like after the 2012 World Meet in 2013, won the World Meet, gone through a divorce, leaving Airspeed, becoming an alternate on Airspeed, a completely reshift in 2013 in my life, learning how to free fly. Before I'm started dating Michelle Caramon, which is my partner right now. Before I even found her, I was single for 2.5 years. It's like complete shift after 2012, where I kind of just made sure I just went down to basics in 2013, and then after that, I wasn't going to compromise. I was going to live life the way I wanted to live it, the way that was made sense to me. And that's being a constant student in life, and then not compromising, and then finding Michelle, which I hit the jackpot there. But it took many times where you want someone to share life with. 2.5 years of that is a long time where you're not have a partner.
Yeah.
Then knowing what I valued in a relationship after being by myself, and then eventually finding Michelle, now it's worth every bit of it to kind of just unapologetically just getting to know yourself, being comfortable being alone first of all, and being comfortable being alone. Now I kind of find my roots in skydiving again. I become a student as a free flyer. I know nothing, so people with 100 jumps are coaching me. It's great. Mm-hmm. And then finally, on top of all of that, finding Michelle. So she has a passion for the sport, like I know you had that connection with Jen.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's great.
Yeah, Michelle just won the 2019 Indoor World Skydiving Championships with Paraclete XP8. It's a big achievement.
I was very nervous about that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I don't know. I was very nervous about her winning the World Championship.
About her winning or about wanting her to win while you were there at the tunnel?
No, I wanted her to win. But before that, when I realized how good her team was and how good she was, I actually went through a little bit of an identity crisis of sorts for myself, that I was afraid that I was not afraid, but I was nervous about how maybe that would affect our relationship of sorts, if at all. But that's kind of my own insecurities coming through.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I noticed that running at the mountain one day, visualizing her winning in France, and I was more cautious about it than I was excited about it. I talked to her about it, but I called Mikhail as soon as I hopped in my car. I was like, Mikhail, you can't believe this, but I'm not sure if I want Michelle to win. No, but it was just fears and insecurities, because in my house, I'm the kick-ass skydiver. But now Michelle is a kick-ass skydiver, and now I'm totally fine with it. She's really good. But at the time, it was a little bit like, I don't know.
Yeah, I can totally identify with that. Jen's a great skydiver as well. But being on the same team, I think it was a little bit different. We got to experience that together after her experience on GKF4. But yeah, Michelle, she seems totally humble, and I don't guess that
she's driven, dude.
That experience changed her much, in a egotistical sort of way, aside from maybe making her more confident. How do you see that?
No, Michelle is the silent killer. She won't say anything, but you're dead. I come more with an announcement.
That's funny.
Yeah, you go through a tunnel on the subway and you're not alive anymore. That's Michelle. Me, on the other hand, I come with artillery and horses and shit. Yeah,
I wouldn't have guessed that, because she seems, so sweet on the exterior, and she's so smiley, and she seems humble and very kind of quiet.
No, she's very driven, hard worker, and I'm super happy. And that's another thing. It's the drive she has. I see the drive I have or had in her, and then you see just the stars align for her, and that's not an accident from what I'm looking. There's luck, right? But sometimes you make your own luck.
But for sure, it all boils down to preparation.
So sometimes I wonder, when I look at my own journey, how can all this just happen for me? Did I just win the lotto? But then I see her, very similar circumstances and very similar things happening. No, she's putting out the energy and the focus and the determination, and the community is embracing her. And she's on the team because she deserves every bit of it.
For sure.
And she's but a lot of people think it's all luck. And I'm telling you, the universe will mirror if your intent is pure and you have that determination in the heart and you're willing to just keep on working, it will come true for you. Some people don't believe in that, but I 100% believe in that, and Michelle has worked very, very hard. I was with Michelle when she didn't even have a forward team, really. So I've been with her through the whole growth, and I've been trying to help her along, but everything she has is made by her, and I'm very impressed with her. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. It's all about the hard work and the effort that you put into it and the dedication that you have. Mm-hmm. And I imagine some. Do you guys have conversations? Like, what's your home life like? Do you have conversations about skydiving and about performance during competition?
Yeah, we do, and I don't. Yeah, we do have conversations, but I don't think we sit down. I think. We do talk, but I think I don't have the kind of deep conversations with her as I would have with you, as an example. I think she's more of a listener, where I can sometimes monologue and she's just listening to me. I'm an extrovert in a way that I have to talk myself through things, and she's more of a thinker and a listener. So a lot of times we can have those kind of conversations where I do most of the talking, but we're interacting, And but I think we talk more about like she's asking for help on some things with when we go and fly in the tunnel and so on. But I think most of the conversations happen by me coaching her on second generation, or she showed me A-way and forward videos and I'm talking to her then, or we're looking at the videos together and she's typing up as I'm debriefing and she sends it out to the team. But I think most of the learning happens in smaller micro conversations. Then when you hire me as a coach, it's an information dump over 4 days. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And when you're living with someone, I think it just happens a little bit every day.
It's going to happen more organically, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to have huge, long sit-downs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the other day when after our training on, just the other day, sat down at the table and I was reviewing some video, and you just love videos so much. You're kind of looking over my shoulder and sat down. We get, I got some additional coaching from you, some more massaging the material, or analyzing the videos, massaging the material as you would describe it. And it's those moments I think that are incredibly valuable, in the learning and growth process.
But we did that already this year, right? Like you and I went in and flew a couple of extra days here. Coming this week, you and I are going to go in and fly some more. I feel like, especially for you and I, finding each other as peace partners. I mean, that's what's going to make us better at nationals, And I feel like you and I are sitting here having this podcast, or we're driving in the car earlier, or having just conversations. You texted me yesterday about your visit to the Pima Air Museum. I think those are the things that's going to make us better. And that's no coaching, there's no technical things, just interacting as two human beings connecting, And I feel like,
Yeah, I agree. That's really powerful. And I think that has applications no matter what you're doing in any kind of team environment, for sure.
I think so.
Do you have any failures which, in retrospect, have propelled you through your journey?
Well, doubt. My biggest failure in skydiving, has been doubt. I grew up in Sweden, where skydiving is an amateur sport, something you do after work, or you take out all your vacation or all your savings to do it, but that's not your main job. So I always grew up thinking that skydiving is something I do now, but I needed a plan B or a plan C or a plan D. And when I finally decided I'm a lifer in skydiving, that's when I joined Airspeed and won the world meet. And I feel like that could have happened a lot earlier, because Alan Metney reached out to me in the year 2000, wanted me to join Airspeed. And I said no. Maybe it wasn't the right time for me. But seriously.
Why did you say no at the time?
Because I didn't want to be, there was a lot of personnel changes. I feel like Airspeed was going through then what Airspeed is going through now. A lot of people coming and going. And it wasn't as attractive to be an Airspeed member at the time, because you see a lot of people coming and going. I didn't want to be the grease to keep the machine going. So I ended up finding my own thing with Fast Tracks, right? Which then made me a player coach myself on a project like that, which was pretty impressive at the time. I didn't see myself. I was true to myself back then, to the point where I just don't want to become an Airspeed member for the sake of being an Airspeed member. I just said no because I wanted to make it, and I think I trusted myself more and my intuition than Airspeed at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
It does, but I would like to know as well. You said doubt has been your biggest failure. What has been your solution to that?
Being a skydiver was in the back of my mind. I don't know how it got there, because I always dreamed big, but it was like I was 99% in. I wasn't 100% in.
Oh, okay.
And that 1% was that doubt that culturally maybe was in my mind where, dude, you got to do something else but skydiving. This cannot be it. You got to grow out of it. You can't be living on the beach being a surfer your whole life. Come to find out, you can. And you can make a good living doing it. And when that finally, I wanted to have a family, and my wife's family at the time, they probably saw me doing something else. So I had all this pressure around me to transition. So I tried to be a skydiver, and I tried to be doing something else, I got this job one time where I was a cold caller, worked for Fidelity Investments handling investment portfolios. All those things were a distraction from skydiving, but something other than skydiving. I was trying to satisfy all these people around me that wanted different things from me.
Because it was a more conventional means of earning a living, maybe?
Yeah. And I mean, it was like, and when I finally grew to the point in my life where I said, no, wait a minute. This is what I want to do. When I was unapologetic to people around me, culturally or direct family members, like, no, dude, this is what I want to do. That's when I was 100% in. And that's when I moved to Arizona with no guarantees of an income and 3 kids and a wife into the real estate bubble that burst, where there's no jobs around. You know what I'm saying? And before then, I was on fast tracks making a guaranteed salary, or I was, I always had something that made me secure, but it was not being 100% in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then when I finally moved here, I was just 100% in. I was going to make it. And I had to make it. I had no other way, And that's when things fell into place for me. Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. It's an awesome success story. This next question might be a little personal. What is the most important lesson that your mother ever taught you?
She always supported me to follow my heart. That's the one thing she taught me, follow my heart. And we grew up in low-income, blue-collar Sweden. And for people that don't know, it's like living in these apartment high-rises in the suburbs. And, I mean, it's a good life in Sweden, It's a good life, but my mom always wanted me to follow my heart. So she always supported me in anything I wanted to do. I wanted to ride dirt bikes. We didn't have money to buy a dirt bike. She found money to buy me a dirt bike. And we kept the dirt bike on the balcony in the apartment, 7 stories up. So she always found ways to support me. I wanted to be a kickboxer. I wanted to do whatever. So when skydiving came up, she's like, sure, let's make it happen. So she always wanted me to follow my heart. And that was when I finally got the guts to just go for it and move to the U.S. and so on. But then again, I don't think she ever put pressure on me ever to not be a full-time skydiver. She always supported it. She was always very proud of me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's great to have that support. I can identify with that as well. Having just retired last week from the Army, my mother was there in attendance for my retirement ceremony, and part of my speech when I was talking to her there was that I think the wording I used was that she would give me a loving and gentle nudge, and she would always inspire my passions and whatever I love to do, and kind of give me a gentle nudge to assure me that I would be able to do it if I put forth the work needed.
Yeah. And that was the thing is, I actually was lucky enough to, my mom, living in the U.S., being busy with skydiving, having a family. I didn't get to Sweden very much at all. So over the span of living here now for 20 years, it's a long time.
Wow, yeah.
I maybe gone back only 7 times. And my mom ended up being sick. And I actually was lucky enough to see her for 4 days before she passed. And those 4 days are like the best days with her ever. We really connected. And that's something that, living so far away from my mother, I was dreading that phone call that I just expected I was going to have. But then I got the last 4 days of her life just sitting next to her, and she passed while I was there.
Wow.
And she passed in her home, me holding her hand. Yeah. And I'm not even like, I thought it was going to be like, it was going to be terrible. And of course, I'll lose my mom right in front of me. It's hard, but I'm at peace with that because that was a gift for me to be so far away, live my life on the other side of the world, and then get her last 4 days. And the last 2 of those 4 days, she was wide awake. We had best conversations, best connections. The next 2 days, she was sleeping a lot, and then she passed. And that was like the best possible way that I could have had the last few days with my mother. And yeah, my mom has always been a very strong person. Oh my God, she's stubborn. She was stubborn, but she's strong, and she never gave up. And she's so follow my heart. That's it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
When you think of a champion, who is the first person that comes to mind?
Champion?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure. Dan BC and Jack Jeffries, for sure. Yeah.
And why is that?
I mean, I just seeing at the Airspeed videos, seeing Dan BC with the headphones on, visualizing at the 1995 World Meet. The shot is epic. Him with his pecs and shoulders and arms.
Yeah, I know it well.
Yeah. Or Jack Jeffries, just knowing him, and how competitive he is. I'm telling you, it's very rare to find that team in 1995 with Mark and Kirk and Jack and Dan and John Lemming on video, how competitive they were and how strong they were as people. Mark at the time the most unknown, but now the winnest four-way person in the world, right?
Yeah.
And me being on a team with him, it's amazing how strong those guys were, And I always wanted to model myself based on them. So in Dubai, when I won, both Jack and Dan were there. And for me, it was like something tremendously spiritual that I was inspired by Jack when I was a kid. And he was the first one that really introduced me to four-way. And here I am being on his project and winning. It was like, it was amazing.
Yeah, it's one of the such a cool thing about this sport is that you're able to be in close contact with your heroes, and sometimes just like you're able to be on on the same team.
Yeah, but I still find that though it's almost like in my DNA, and I don't think I'm alone in that. Dan is Dan, even though I'm accomplishing my own right now. No, Dan is Dan.
Yeah,
I'm still subservient to him in a way, and he doesn't feel that, I'm sure, but I feel that because he's still my hero. And Jack is still my hero. Jack still makes me nervous. I'm like, don't look at me like that. Sometimes when I know I have to call Jack, I don't call him.
Oh, really? Wow.
No, but I'm still like that boy band fan in a way. I'm nervous. I'm nervous around him. I want to make him proud, but they can see right through you, dude. They've been here. They've done it.
For sure.
You can't fake it.
Yeah.
They see right through it.
Yeah. Yeah, but they know too. They understand. I've had a conversation like that with Dan, I think, and when he was, about his heroes. We've all been through it, right? And that what you were talking about, that video of Dan, visualizing with the headphones on and flexing the muscles. We were at the Nationals. I think it was 1999, and we'd go out of that little string of team rooms in that. Was it like a cinder block building?
Yeah.
And we'd go out back, and I'd go out. We were talking about the pre-competition rituals, the visualization you put on the headphones. I was doing that, and we'd always be out there together doing it at the same time. So that would happen over and over. And finally, he took off his headphones. He's like, "Hey, man, why are we the only ones out here?" And that was a really special moment for me. Yeah. I was like, "This is so cool. I'm back out here, Dan."
Yeah.
And the final question I have for you is, what advice do you have for those wishing to embark on a champion's journey of their own?
Tenacity in a way, don't give up. And I feel like having my own experience with just following my heart, which is the motivation, the passion, just keep going, right? But along the way, doubt creeps in, and for me, I had a lot of doubt. Most of it was momentary doubt, so some of them being that I doubted that just skydiving in itself might not be a lifelong thing. And when I realized it was, all doubt was gone for me. But to just follow your heart. And what I mean by that is just cut the umbilical cord in a way. For me, it was leaving Sweden in a way to just make the huge leap to the U.S. And people that are already in the U.S., if you are 100% into skydiving, the community will embrace you. It might take a year or two, but if you put your effort into it, the community will open its arms and you will land safe and sound. You might not know exactly what it's going to look like, but it's going to embrace you for sure. And I feel like that happens over and over again in this sport. And the latest example we talked about with Michelle, right? And how XP has embraced her. Or I have other people that are just so passionate about, and they all wonder, how do I transition? Just keep doing what you do and don't stop, And then it's going to come a day where you really have to make that leap of faith, leaving your job or leaving where you live or whatever, right? To each his own, whatever that situation is. But be ready just to leap. And when you do, trust that it's going to be okay. Because that fear sometimes can be paralyzing. It was for me, And when I finally made it, the sport is something amazing. And, that's it.
It's great advice, brother. I really appreciate the conversation. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
No, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.